Today I am so excited to finally have a British watch brand in for review. Of course, being from Britain, it's great to see genuine watchmaking being brought back to life. And it's even better when the brand is hand making and assembling the watches right here in England. Of course, the brand I'm talking about is Mr. Jones. And I'm sure you've probably seen some of their weird and wacky designs here on YouTube. But today we'll be taking a deep dive into what makes this brand so special, how they individually create every single watch, and I'll be reviewing one of their most colourful models. So grab a cup of tea and a few biscuits because today we're taking a look at your next favourite British watch brand. Oh, and make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so that you never miss a video. But before we get into the watches themselves, let's first take a look at the roots of this watch brand. When and where did it start, and what's the inspiration behind the watches? The story of Mr. Jones watches starts with the founder Crispin Jones. Crispin studied fine arts at Kingston University in London, where he specialised in sculpting. Part of the course involved taking photos of the sculptures that you made and transforming them in Photoshop. Crispin quickly realised that he enjoyed the graphic design side of the course more than the actual sculpting. So after graduation, Crispin pursued a graphic design career for a couple of years. Then he did a master's degree at the Royal College of Art in computer-related design. After this, he began to make one-off artistic pieces for exhibition purposes. However, it was in 2005 where Crispin designed his first ever watch. These first watches weren't functional though. Instead, they were a statement on how the watch industry had become all about an affluent image and flex culture. After this project was successful though, he gained the confidence to reach out and try and make his ideas come to life. He eventually found a factory that could bring his designs to market and created 5 models for commercial sale. This initial launch of watches was successful, and Mr. Jones watches was officially born in 2007, where he worked for 4 years as the exclusive designer for Mr. Jones watches. After 4 years of designing the watches himself, Crispin looked to friends he had met during his artistic studies for collaborations, allowing other creatives complete freedom of working on a very cool project. Now there's 3 things that make these watches extra special, and that's how, where, and who makes them. Until 2011, all of Mr. Jones watches were made in Chinese and Hong Kong factories, but one thing massively holding the brand back was the turnaround times of receiving samples back from these factories, which would take around 3 months just to get a sample in hand. So Crispin decided to open up his own workshop in London. When the first samples were made in London, Crispin realised that the printing and production could actually be done in his London workshop, where he would have more control over the quality and timescale of each release. So slowly, Mr. Jones watches started the transition of creating the watches right here in England. With this control, it allowed the watches to develop on a technical scale and the designs to become much more intricate, with the majority of the artistic side of the business being done in-house by up-and-coming British artists. You can see this in real time by visiting their Instagram page, where they frequently post videos showing watches being made by hand, and the process of these watches being made is mesmerising to see, with each printing of a dial, the hand finishing touches of some of the models, and the assembly and regulation all done in-house. It's amazing to see a British watch brand doing this, employing British people to create British watches. Talented and skilled individuals coming together to create unique timepieces unlike any other watch brand. Now, a lot of watch brands steal from others for their designs, but of course Mr. Jones certainly don't do that. They have their very own way of coming up with each design. Now, the designs of Mr. Jones watches are flamboyant to say the least. They certainly take an artistic approach with each release, and I'm pretty confident when I say that you'll never find a regular looking watch in their catalogue. But of course this is on purpose. Mr. Jones wants to be different. They approach the art of watchmaking in a completely unique way. Every watch in their catalogue has a designer, a genuine artist who created these pieces with love and passion, putting their own experiences and philosophy into their design. Then the Mr. Jones team brings them to life for enthusiasts to enjoy, and that's why none of their watches look the same. Each watch is made by an individual, putting their own spin on creating a timepiece, a fresh idea every single time, and you can read about the artist on their website, and also the packaging you get with the watch. You'll find the inspiration behind the piece, the background on the artist, and feel the passion for the craft. Okay, enough now about the influence and history behind this watch brand. let's now review one of their watches. So let's first take a look at the model that I have. So the watch that we have in for review today is the Mare Adiso, which was designed by Italian artist Matteo Girardi. The inspiration behind this watch is said to be a celebration of nature and freedom of the oceans. Mare Adiso translates from Italian to English as see now, with the idea being to leave the city and enjoy nature. Now we'll cover the dial and how to read the time in the next section of the video, so stay tuned. But first, let me take you through the specifications of the watch. So we have a full stainless steel construction, which features a completely polished finish. The side profile of the case is quite unique, with a thin bar that runs from lug to lug, and this is where you'll find the only Mr. Jones branding on the entire watch, with a small logo on the left flank. The watch comes with a mesh bracelet, signed with the Mr. Jones logo on the clasp. Covering the playful dial, we have a flat sapphire crystal, and inside the watch we have the automatic Seagull ST1721 movement, but we'll cover this a little later in more detail too. The watch features a 50 meters water resistance rating, which Mr. Jones claims to be waterproof, but we do only have a pressed case back and push-pull crown, so do be careful getting this one too wet. The watch does come with a 1-year warranty, which I would personally like to be at least 2, and of course this watch is printed and assembled in-house down in London at the Mr. Jones workshop. The watches have a range of different prices, starting from £195 up to £595, which of course means better specs the more you spend. The model I have in for review today retails for £245. So the specifications are great with an automatic movement and a sapphire crystal, but let's be honest, the most impressive part about these watches is the dials. So let's take a closer look. This particular dial shows an orca diving deep in the ocean, then soaring above the waves throughout the day. The whale rotates 360 degrees every 60 minutes, which means that the very tip of the whale's face is the minute hand. The hour is displayed at the 9 o'clock in a window that represents the sun setting above the ocean. So when the orca's face passes the summit of the dial, the number inside the sun flips over to the next hour. So on first glance, this is a complicated dial to read, but once you know, it's easy to adapt. There is a 3D construction to this dial, with the pink sunset being the background, the orca being the middle, and the ocean which sits against the sapphire glass. This is achieved by a thin plastic sheet that operates as the minute hand, allowing the orca to appear floating with nothing attached to it. Of course, this watch is an acquired taste. It's certainly flamboyant, and a watch that you'd expect to see in the recent Barbie movie, but it's fun to say the least, and nothing says summer watch quite like a beautiful sunset and ocean printed right on the dial. You'll also notice no Mr. Jones branding on the dial, and why would there be? This is an artistic piece. You don't see Leonardo da Vinci signing the Mona Lisa above her head. Now, this way of displaying the time is only possible by using a special type of movement, so let me explain to you why Mr. Jones opts to use these movements inside of their watches. So as mentioned earlier, inside this watch we see the use of the Seagull ST1721 movement. This is an automatic module that has a power reserve of 48 hours. But the most impressive part of this movement, and what makes it so important to this style of watch, is that this is a jumping hour module, which is incredibly rare to find on entry-level watches. Also, to anyone asking why a Seagull movement and not a Seiko or Swiss, I'm pretty sure that this is the only way to get a jumping hour module on an affordable watch. I think it's incredibly cool that this watch features a mechanical movement. You'd never even be able to tell, with no running seconds, or a huge automatic printed across the dial like most other watch brands do. The movement inside quietly goes about its mechanical business, with only you, the wearer, even knowing that it's mechanical. I like this, an understated feature on an otherwise exuberant watch. So if you're liking this watch so far, hold on and let me show you the wearing dimensions, and how it wears on the wrist, because this might be make or break for you. This piece comes with a 37mm case diameter, a 46mm lug to lug, and a rather slender 10mm thickness. These are, by all means, smaller wearing dimensions that will work best on a smaller wrist like mine, and the lug width on the watch is 18mm, so there will be no problem finding aftermarket straps with this one. But if the size of this one is too small for you, they do also make watches with 40mm case sizes. Overall, this size is perfect for me. The watch is lightweight, unobtrusive, and is perfect for those sweaty summer months when you want to wear something that's a bit smaller on the wrist. It isn't too in your face either, which could have very easily happened with such bright colours. You might have noticed the odd construction of the lugs, which are very thin pin and show a lot of wrist through the gap. I can't say that I'm a big fan of this, but I'll cover that in the pros and cons section coming up next. Okay, time for the most important part of the video. What are some things that I don't like about this watch? What would I change, and what do I think they've executed well? As usual, Mr. Jones supplied this watch for free for the review, but they had no say in the opinions or content of this video. With that being said, here are a few things that I noticed with this watch that I don't particularly like. First of all, those weird lugs. I get that they really frame the dial. After all, that's the focus point here, but the quick release spring bars of the strap point out and it's quite annoying. I'm guessing on a regular leather this would look better, but those bolt action pins ruin the minimal aesthetic of the case. I would personally like to see a bit more variety in the finishing department, maybe that lug to lug bar being completely brushed, and I'd like to see a 2-year warranty with the watch. Now the pros. I think that this is an incredibly fair price for a British handmade watch. Seeing the workshop in action is something that I really respect, and considering that these are handmade watches, I see no single flaw or imperfection with the dial work, so good job to the watchmakers. I like the experience of these watches too. The packaging is minimal but does the job, and I thoroughly enjoy the jumping hour complication. I can't think of many other affordable watches that offer this, especially ones that are made in Britain. So overall, Mr. Jones for me is a fantastic British watch brand that should probably be in more watch collections. Yes, they are only occasional wear pieces in my opinion, for when you're going down to the pub or going on holiday, but for just £200, I think that this is a bloody good watch with great specifications and an artistic design. So I'll leave a link down in the description to the Mr. Jones website. And if you liked this video and I have a bit more of your time, be sure to watch my video here where I finally reveal my entire watch collection.